Evening, folks. Jimmy Cavanaugh here, coming live from, my room. Not at Assembly Hall. It's been a long night. Fresh off the Indiana Wesleyan basketball game. Got the chance to call that one on the television broadcast. Shameless plug. It'll be on Tuesday at 3:30. Check it out. Anyway, back to live action, as it were. Indiana did a pretty decent job against the Wildcats. Came in with little lack of energy. The first half wasn't great. They didn't play the way a lot of folks expected them to, but they came together in the second half quite nicely. Pulled out a pretty impressive victory over a team that's not bad in their own right. I'm going to give a little credit to Indiana Wesleyan just right off the bat because that was a team that was really well coached. A lot of really good players on it, or at least pretty good players. Hopkins in particular was really impressive as a 6'7", 230 center, essentially going up against the trees for Indiana and scoring his fair share of baskets. He looked pretty good in and of his own self. Then you look at the way that the rest of the team was able to coalesce around him. DJ Bettinger was pretty good early on. He hit a pair of deep threes, NBA range threes, which for an NAIA Division II guard, not a bad thing to see from him. I really liked what I saw. It just as a whole from Indiana Wesleyan. They're well coached. They cut well. They got to the basket, and they made IU look bad for a good portion of the first half. I'm sure the message board crowd and the live chat crowd were freaking out a little bit. Well, not without reason, just because of the way that Wesleyan made IU look. Now, to the Hoosiers, to their point, obviously, as the first exhibition game of the year, Indiana Wesleyan played a real live game last night, or a couple nights ago. At this point, you're probably watching this on a Friday morning, so time space continuum thing going on there. I really liked the fact that IU was able to come out against Indiana Wesleyan, a team that had just played a real competitive game. It scored 90 against a top 20 opponent in their league. And the fact that IU was able to play as well as they did against them. Now, it sounds kind of weird because Indiana is the number one team nationally right now. But if you take a look at what they've done historically in exhibition games, it could be a lot worse. It could be Ferris State. I know folks remember that game. Victor Oladipo, I'm sure, does, saving what would have been a horribly embarrassing loss to Ferris State. That team ended up going IU that year 12-20, but they were a lot better than they had been the year before, and they ended up a lot better than they looked against Ferris State, a team that really had no business hanging in that game with them. A few specifics, a few particulars. The rebounding was impressive. I asked Coach Crean about the rebounding after the game. He said that he was pretty happy with what he saw from his team in terms of rebounding. He knows they can get better, but there was a lot of aggressiveness that they showcased, which is something that he was thrilled about. Also, just looking at the point guard play, towards Yogi Ferrell, ankle breaker. He broke that kid. I think it was DJ Bettinger, but Yogi Ferrell, in the first half, within the first 5 minutes of the game, pulled out an absolute crossover lightning bolt. Just made the kid look bad. You felt bad for the guy. I can't remember the last time that IU's had a player that can make someone else look so ridiculous, just on skates. He put him on ice in front of the 17,000 fans in attendance. It was a really impressive sight to see. And then he had a pretty solid game in and of itself beyond that because he distributed very well, got a little too cute a couple times, but distributed really well, very effectively, and it really showed a pretty capable mid-range game to 15 feet and in. He could get his shot, obviously, against a Wildcat defense that's not to the level that he will see, but he got his 15-footer whenever he wanted it, and showed why people are so excited about him. He looks like a special player, and as he continues to develop as the year goes on, I think we're going to see better and better things from him. Cody Zeller developed from the beginning to the end of last year. I think we'll see the same with Yogi Ferrell. But to get to the journalism professors who are undoubtedly out there killing me for burying the lead, The story of this game was Maurice Creek. Trisha Whitaker for IU Sportcom had a great story on him. It's on the site. You can check it out right around where this one is. But basically just recapping the first game since he left the floor against Michigan way back in the 2010-11 season. He returned to action at Assembly Hall, and not only that, he led the team in scoring. In the first half, he was really strong. He pulled out an old man floater. It was nice. He showed some real good range on his three-point shot, and probably more impressive to me, he showed a couple times on defense where he had quick hands and was able to poke the ball away and create an opportunity going the other way. A lot of people have wondered how good this team can be, and they don't talk about Maurice Creek too much. This is the X factor to me, because if he can be the player that we saw tonight, if he can be the player not to the level that he was his freshman year against Kentucky for his 30-plus point game, but if he can provide more than people were expecting him to bring, which I don't think anyone really knew what to expect, IU's going to be better than a lot of people thought they were. And they're already the #1 team in the country, which tells you something. I will say this, the front court depth I'm still a little interested in seeing. Cody Zeller and Christian Watford are the starters. But until the eligibility situation with Peter Jurkin, and Hunter Mosquera Perea play out, we're going to see a front court that's lacking in depth to a degree. Will Sheehy is not of ideal size to play there. Jeremy Hollowell is a freshman. You'll recall Christian Watford is a freshman in the posts. Wasn't always pretty. But that's what we could be looking at if Peter Jurkin and Hunter Mosquera Perea are not cleared to play here in the very near future. That to me is the only red flag with this team. It's obscenely deep. This is probably the deepest college basketball team I can recall seeing. I mean, people talk about Syracuse last year. That's something. I'm sure I'm forgetting examples. But this Indiana team, definitely the most skilled, deep, imposing team that I've seen in Bloomington in a number of years since I've paid attention to Indiana basketball. And I'm sure the more veteran observers among us will share that sentiment. That's about all I've got here for IU Sportcom. I'm Jimmy Cavanaugh saying good night, travel well. Thanks for watching. We'll get back to you next Friday, about this time next week. IU opens with Bryant to begin the regular season. Thanks, folks. Take care.